just before we click live, we make sure we tell Sean to get a little going. He's in a different time zone. He's adjusting to it.
I am. It's 2 hours before my time, so it's Back to the Future and stuff.
Yeah, it's like 4:30, me and Sean's normal time, but it's only 2:30, so you're ready for the day to get close to over.
Dude, I honestly
drinks and a cigar time.
Yeah, that's correct. So I am at IT Nation Evolve over in Denver, and I was sitting in one of the pair groups with my good friend Gene from Traces.io that won PitchIT last year, coincidentally, and we were talking about. He was like, "Hey, what do you want to do later?" I'm like, "Well, we'll grab some dinner, whatever." We started talking about cigars, and one dude was like, one of the MSPs, like, "Hey, cigars, yes." He's like, what about whiskey? I was like, what about whiskey? Yeah, whiskey, bourbon, everything. And so now we have a play date later on with a bunch of MSPs with cigars and whiskey and bourbon. So we'll probably grab a few bottles, grab a bunch of cigars, and we will be off and running with them later on tonight.
That is awesome.
Talking about God knows what.
Yes.
So I'm super stoked. So
talking some business, having some fun. Speaking of which, this is another PitchIT event. So links are down there to the ConnectWise PitchIT if you want it. We have plenty of the series we've been doing. PitchIT is a Shark Tank-like event hosted by ConnectWise. And ConnectWise puts all of these great vendors, 18 of them specifically, have gone through this program, and every time we do one of these are a little further along into the program, so we like to ask them about how that's going. And it's all about tuning and giving them all the insights to make sure their product is a fit for the MSP market, how they can further tune their business and align it. And ultimately one of them will be a winner of a cash prize essentially for the IT Nation 2022.
You want me to take it over from here?
Yeah, you take it over from there. I'm stumbling today.
You're doing well, Tom. Thank you for all your help today. Let's move on to more important topics so people understand the English.
Yes.
So yes, here's how it works out. We have 18 vendors right now going through an accelerator program. It's 16 weeks of accelerating program. Each week there's a workshop with industry leaders talking about sales, marketing, merger and acquisition, stuff of that nature. Trying to fill in, hopefully give them a well-rounded education on what to do, right? You're a business owner. You know that you had a plan and you thought what you were going to do, and all of a sudden you realized, oh crap, I missed that. I forgot about these things, right? So hopefully it gives them some insight on some things they can work on, right? At the same time, they're doing webinars with people like us. They do some with me and Adam Belensky from ConnectWise Boss, Sierra Pacific Group, and with us here on Business Technicalities, getting them some exposure to brand awareness, getting them some, also helping them to fine tune their speak, because that's a big part of this, and also to get the world to get to know people better. Now, at the end of the 16 weeks, which is happening in just a few weeks from now, we're going to be doing a preliminary judging, which we're about to make a pretty big announcement on how we're going to do this and what the venue is going to look like, where the 18 vendors are going to be limited down to 3. They're going to be selected based off of a few things. Now, those 3 will be competing at IT Nation Connect in November. Okay, and those are they're playing for the big prize, on stage live, and they'll be announced at the conference who wins between first, second, and third. Third place they don't win any revenue, any money. Second place $30,000, first place $70,000. So it's a great opportunity for these guys. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Perfect. Sean nailed it. He's ahead of me. In time and everything.
Been doing this a lot. And I'm behind. You're ahead in time. I'm behind.
See, I don't even know. You know how many recordings I've done today already?
That's how it works. But the time zones have never changed. There's still this, Eastern, Central, Mountain.
It's all just a made up construct to try
Arizona to time. Arizona time, which has its own time, and then West Coast. Yes.
So let's bring on the vendors, and I'm going to be picking on one of them a little bit because I know him. So,
okay, well then we'll go with the other one first.
All right.
All right. So let's bring on Chris. It's sad I already knew who it was. Hey, Chris from Chat Style. How are you doing, dude?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks a lot, guys, for having me.
Absolutely. Can we just go into something we were bringing up backstage before you got on? A previous job of yours?
Yeah. You mentioned it. That I used to work at NASA a long time ago.
NASA.
That was actually my first professional software job. I was an intern at the NASA facility near where I grew up, It's a division of Goddard, Wallops Island. And so I'm there, 18 years old, learning C, learning how to code, and for minimum wage, writing software at NASA. And then when I was done with college, that was my first job as well, working at the same base. So
That's an awesome launch into a career.
it was. I can't have asked for a better opportunity. And it's all it's odd. The place where I grew up is really very rural, and so there's really two career paths. It's agriculture or NASA. I took NASA, and it's worked out pretty well so far.
So to be clear, you have two paths: farmer or NASA. It's like, I don't know about you, Tom. My two career paths did not consist of NASA on either one of those.
No.
I grew up in the inner city, so there was no farming either. So,
No, it's a great place to grow up, but yeah, not a lot of jobs. So, but yeah, I was lucky and made the most of my opportunity. So,
awesome. So let's talk about the opportunity right now. Very quick, high level. What do you do?
We make chat work better for MSPs, make it into an asset, not a liability. And they're already using it. They're using it internally. They are probably getting requests to use it from the customers. We're here to make that be something that really supercharges them rather than drags them down and gives them more problems than it does solutions.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you for that. Now we're going to bring up the other guy.
Just the other guy.
I'm just going to segue for you. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, good to be a +1 on this date today. How's it going?
I was totally slow playing this because I was like, well, since Tom's going to pick on it, I might as well get it started the right way.
Yeah.
And like, just let John sit there and chomp at the bit and wait and be like, all right, it's my turn. It's my turn.
I'm ready. I'm ready to take the hits.
So
I'm glad it's you, not me.
Yeah.
Well, so me and Sean know John for a little while, and I think you introduced me to him at Chicago. Was it? When did we go?
Yeah.
Was it in May?
Chicago, Channel Pro, Chicago, with Paco.
Yeah. So it's been a minute. And that's actually where we met, and that was at the very beginning of it. And I think John had some hesitation about, there's going to be a lot of work going to all these events.
Totally crying about it. He's like, I don't know. We sat there, and he was like, I don't know. It's a sunny day today, but tomorrow might rain. Leap year's coming. I can't possibly. There's a lot of questions. And then between Andrea Barrow and myself, because she kind of called him on it, and then I was like, yeah, what are you waiting on? You want to be involved? Get involved. He said, you're right. There's no reason not to. There's no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are.
And you're excited to be part of this program now, right? It's
Absolutely, yeah. Anybody that knows me, I love asking questions. But to that point, Sean, I have now slept 5 nights in my own bed in the past 30. So I kind of embraced it. I'm just everywhere now. I'm doing all the shows, running around, learning, meeting great folks.
Absolutely. Let's talk about coming full circle. We met in Chicago, and we just saw each other last week, all of us in Chicago at ChannelCon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I went from a crybaby to a channel chief.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just say you accepted. You assimilated. How about that? That's a much better word.
There we go.
And he embraced getting booth 404, which I was greatly amused by.
That is awesome. Actually, was that your booth?
Yeah, we were booth 404. SAS not found.
Yeah, he made signs for it.
Everybody kept coming up and saying it was bad luck, and I'm like, I chose this booth. I had the option to choose a booth, and I chose 404.
I love that.
How is that even hanging out?
I was amused. That's why I remembered what his booth number is. I only know one booth number. There must have been a lot of them, but I knew 404.
You should make like T-shirts with that on there. Seriously.
I know. Our T-shirts actually were under order and just missed it by a couple of days, so he just said scrap them. But we introduced our alien Greg. He's a cowboy alien. It's like the most bizarre thing ever. But basically, we were saying your sash should not be as elusive as a Yeti, which we were giving away, as mysterious as Waldo, or as hard to find as a cowboy alien named Greg. So we lived it up over at 404.
Yeah.
So speaking of 404, universal term, what do you do? I think it's
Yeah, so what do we do here over at Sasleo? We really resolved a lot of why we jested about 404 SaaS not found, but in reality, for most MSPs, 404 SaaS is really not found. Most managed service providers are out there supporting their customer. They have this amazing visibility in the endpoints. The remote monitoring management vendors have done a great job of letting them know all the vulnerabilities there. In most cases, they have great visibility in the network. There's lots of great network tools to kind of give them that level of visibility. But when it boils down to it, most MSPs actually don't know the SaaS tools their customers are using. And so we built a technology that automatically does the collection for you, gives you recommendations, gives you an entire strategy to talk to your customer about SaaS. And for me, it's kind of crazy, right? Like, I come from all the three founders in the business were all tier one tech guys, and that's what kind of inspired us to do this thing. But back in 2015, there were 8 apps. Now there's about 100 per customer. And it's just crazy. The number 2 line item that a customer is paying you for. So if a customer is paying an MSP, number 1, it's the MSP. And number 2, it's the SaaS. And it's like, why aren't MSPs embracing this talk track around all these SaaS tools that customers are using? And they are, by the way. It's shepherding in. We're seeing a lot of adoption. But that's what we built out to help MSPs wrangle SaaS, bring the cloud back down to earth, as our marketing people would say.
I think you're referred to as like an RMM for the browser, because you use a browser plugin to see what they're logging into. It's a little, like you said, it's a little tricky to. That's why you added so much context to describe exactly what you do, but it is a blind spot. What are all the websites that they're sticking data in? Because it's the old school mentality is lock that USB so they can't exfiltrate data. Oh, it just all went in Dropbox.
Yeah, we ended up finding. We're finding crazier corner cases too, Tom. Like finding people uploading password lists into Dropbox or customer lists into. I would think that's crazy, but now the data proves it to me. So at least I don't have to be crazy. The data can tell me it's true. But yeah, we see we see so many damning cases at this point. There's merely an obligation almost for me to solve this problem. That I honestly feel there's an obligation for this to be solved and to be educated in the community.
I love how you were like, I feel obligated. That's amazing. You're a man of the people, John. You're a man of the people, right?
I'm something, but I am here. I'm trying to be a man to the people.
So we have two platforms here that sort of revolve around monitoring in some way, shape, or form, right? The reality is, because on Chris's side, monitoring chats, which, by the way, anybody's ever worked customer support or help desk, it's a freaking nightmare, right? Everything, especially now that it's 2022, the requirement for communication everywhere and anywhere at any time has really become a standard. And you look at it, think about it. I talk on Slack groups, I talk in Discord groups, I talk in Reddit, I talk on Facebook, I talk on LinkedIn, and email and phone calls and whatever. So take your pick. So all these things, and it's become such a dire need to be responsive. That's the one thing you see what ends up happening with a lot of companies is a lack of responsiveness. And is it due to because they don't care or just because they don't have access and ease of doing business, right? And so for me, being that I've always been on the sales side and the brand awareness and the business development side, the importance of response times and everything else is dire to my success. I can't, product can be great, but if you guys suck as responsiveness, we're done. That's just truth. So with that, where I'm going with this is, how do these tools affect businesses in general? What do you see? Both of you make companies efficient.
We try to, yes. And so, it's about monitoring things. It's about being able to be more responsive. Be able to be where your customers are, where they want to be. They are going to have, like you listed, a dozen platforms, and that's one of the things that I think is most telling about chat when it comes to that kind of communication is it means something different to probably every one of your customers. Some of them want to use Slack. Some of them want to use Teams. Some of them
Right.
want to text you, and you want to be able to support them in the way they want. And it works both ways because it makes them more accessible to you as well as you being more accessible to them.
Agreed.
You get to follow up, you get to close that ticket because you talked to them the way they wanted you to.
And I think the problem starts, and especially when you're at an even larger place, where people start with the top on down. We're going to make it easy for our customers to engage with us, but then there's at some point someone has to deal with the reality of it. Okay, but who's going to actually reply to these messages? How's this going to integrate into the way we communicate internally so we can actually represent? It's always a great idea at the top, and it's not a new idea. I mean, embedding things on there, but I would say the idea was way ahead of its ability in the technical aspects to keep up with it, because a lot of people had a lot of bad experiences over the years with these just going unanswered or answering in a poor way. So the customer level experience with them wasn't good. So what have you done a little different? How are you solving that?
Sure. Well, yeah, as far as the technology goes, yeah, there's definitely been a lot of over-promising and under-delivering on a lot of these things. So,
Oh yeah.
The first thing we did is go and make sure that everything we built is omni-channel. So, the core of it is able to adapt to pretty much any kind of messaging that's got an API that we can work with. And so that opens us up to really be able to support a wide range of communications from texting to social media to embedding something on your website. So that's the first difference. And the second difference is that, we're specifically looking at MSPs as being able to, at least initially, make a difference for them. And so that means, real tight integration with ConnectWise Manage, being able to make sure that all this information that comes through gets back into the ticket or the contact, gets into a note, gets where it needs to be, where you want it to be, without your techs having to do all the dirty work of making sure that all gets there.
And I think that's one of the important things is this is not something you'll see with just the average chatbot. This is like you have PSA integration, and that's what's going to really bring it forward for MSPs is tying it together to the systems we use. And of course, come back as when it started years ago to where we're at today, these systems allow these different API integrations for you to tie it all together. And that's what's going to allow us to actually respond to customers, update a ticket. And, as all the technology gets easier, it's just great because the customer can go to one place. They can just type in information here. You can contextually read it, query these things, bring back the information. And I think about that a lot because we're always trying to figure out, you need sometimes too many level 1 help desk people who are doing no more than just brokering information. You're like, someone just wants to know a status. The status didn't get kicked out. They just have a simple, or they want to add a little context to their question. So I really see where this can really help you at that level 1 level quite a bit of eliminating some of that just chatter back and forth and work, like just brokering basic information that can now all be conveyed via a couple of API calls.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we do nicely too. Is you can define a set of questions that that the bot can ask before your tech even gets involved. Collect those basic pieces of information that they're doing every time, and it works not just for the customer-facing side, but also for the internal side. Making it easier for techs who are using something like Teams or Slack for collaboration to have that same level of PSA integration that the customer communication does. So,
I think techs are getting more comfortable with it too, because I notice it's more and more common for any of alerting system, like server style alerts, will go right into Slack for us. We can issue commands, and I've even seen the back and forth. I think my friend may have went too far, but he can reboot servers and do a lot of deployment right from Slack commands that send it back to. I'm like, that's scary, dude, but cool.
Very nice. Yeah.
Well, think about this, and everything you just said. It comes down to a few factors here. One being, it saves on administrative tasks and time, right? 2, it gives you data and communication integrity, right? And those are huge pieces here. And I mean, actually, I just had a conversation today. It evolved with an MSP with the owner and the COO, and they were talking about how the one guy said it seems like it's lopsided, the tickets I'm taking care of, and like they looked at it and he had like 3.5 hours of documented time. He worked on things. I have an 8-hour workday, and he's like, it's lopsided. Like, no, it's not. Like, and again, and he said, well, I'm really busy, and they said, why are you so busy? And he's like, well, I got to document everything after I'm done. I got to go into the PSA. I have to go into wherever they're hosting their stuff, and you got to start filling in stuff. And nobody's accounting for that. I mean, maybe they are, but it's really a lot more. So again, this is really nice. Right? It should make it more efficient, and then you can start focusing on skill set players.
You know, it is the common theme across all the people we've interviewed for PitchIT. And, you know, if I summed up a lot of these vendors, it's been that same thing. How can we save? Because we can't find enough people to fill seats. There's a lot of busy work in managing these things. And how can we automate it and really smooth it out, while at the same time integrating with all the products? We're not updating one, we're doing the API call to all of them. So I think, you know, that's just where we have to go. Like, if there's a theme I've learned from talking to all the vendors, it's like we have to get there, and you guys are all driving us there, which really is cool.
Yeah, it's definitely all about automation, all about taking the work that they don't want to be doing out of the process, about, like you said, Sean, just automatically collecting all that information that they worked on during the day for them and getting it into to manage. That's worth a lot.
Well, and even to tie John into this, because John wants to really talk about himself, we love that. Both platforms, again, there's an automation aspect. There's also the observation piece that actually simplifies that you can start working on skill set positions as opposed to adding people doing searches, right? And well, I can imagine that's important.
And John, here's a question. How many chatbots do you know that people are putting data in? Is that something else on your list of tracking?
I mean, we know. I haven't pulled the trend yet, but I think our worst offender, we do track 3 key offenders: the most communication tools in a customer environment, the most file sharing tools, and then we have the most document management systems. Communications is 7 so far, so that's our worst offender, 7 for communication. So I would say the average is probably in that 3 to 4 range, though. People are putting data in everything. They don't even, the employees don't understand that these systems that are free are not really free. They just think that they can put business data in them without any recourse or risk. So it's it's not an exact metric we track, but I know it's pretty freaking close to what I just said.
The combination of two is really interesting, because once again, we have 2 vendors with complementary products in a way here. You know, they're not at all competing with each other. As a matter of fact, you have me as an MSP, I'm encouraging my clients to use the chatbot system that I have, that, you know, Chris has here, to get information in there. While at the same time, I need something like John's tool in order to understand what other chatbots, because if they get comfortable putting information in mine, who else's information, what are they putting in the other chatbots that they're encountering across the landscape? And I have to know both of these things.
That's a good point. So you have an origination and a destination.
Yeah.
So I like, again, we talked about the other day yesterday, Tom, you and I, everybody we paired up in these conversations seems that is very complementary in product lines.
Yeah.
You're almost the yin to the yang, or, you know, if you're, you know, you complete me kind of, that'd be like a great, we should use like a you complete me concept, like, you know, like Tom Cruise said, you know, like you complete me. I feel like that's what's happening here, right? But with that, how do you see, and going down the road here, and we talked about this the other day, is now that everything is going, I shouldn't say everything because I'll get my head chopped off or bit off, with so many things going cloud, right? So many things becoming digital. We know things have to be automated more now because, well, it's possible now. It's very possible because of it, but it's changing the dynamic of the workers, right? So how do you see your products down the road measuring up to this?
Yeah, I'm open to take this one then, Chris, and leave it to your leave it to you to finish up. But I think as everything's moving cloud, and I can say it, Sean, you can't. Maybe nobody's gonna buy my head off for saying it, but everything is eventually moving down the spectrum of SaaS, XaaS, right? Everything's going to be a service. We're really moving into this model where, you know, desktop as a service is even starting to get some launch pad. And I think that the key pain with everything moving to the cloud is, for us, you know, I'm opinionated, but For us,
No.
no, I know. Believe it or not, I'm going to find a way to talk about Saslio here. But if I didn't, then you'd probably be concerned.
I would be worried. You're absolutely right.
I think when you look at the future, there's going to be a lot of actually compliance changes, in my opinion, probably around some of this. I think that we're going to see a little direction from whether it's the cybersecurity insurance or insurance providers, or whether it's the request from the customers. We can't just be okay with everything going to cloud, but not having visibility into it. And that's kind of the current state we're in. I would say we're really in the infancy of being able to support all of these cloud apps and SaaS apps that customers are using. Because, let's face it, if we want to talk about ops, the way that MSPs figure out what SaaS tools their customers are using today is a SaaS app in most cases, actually. Pretty funny. It's a survey or it's an Excel doc. It's just a questionnaire. It's not a bulletproof model of actually getting what's being used. Or they'll leverage DNS logs and less sophisticated manners to get there. But from our perspective, where we see us navigating that future, eventually we have to really tighten down on this employee onboard, offboard journey that we're in with all these cloud apps. And I see Saslio starting to help, operations in a lot of areas. How can we deprovision cloud licenses automatically? How can we integrate into the tools that the customers are using to make their life better? We started with a mission, which is let the data drive our business and let the data drive our development. And so over the last 2.5 years, as we've grown rapidly in doing discovery and visibility, we now know what we need to build and we know where we need to build integration into. So I think for us, the future will be letting our data tell us what customers are using, letting our data tell us where the vulnerabilities and risks are, and to build automations around those problems to help shepherd in a SaaS ops component of Saslio, which will really help talk about the operations behind SaaS, which is we are way in the future of where people are even thinking now. So I think SaaS ops will probably be a direction that will have to be foundational to every organization in the future, just like right now SaaS visibility or a SaaS discovery is.
Couldn't agree more. All right. So now, Chris, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, yeah.
John talked about everything and stole every bit of thunder. So in the beginning and in the finale, now Chris go.
And in the future,
In the future.
I just throw enough acronyms around. I look smart.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I think you're being kind of generous about the looking smart part, but yeah.
Sounding smart.
There we go.
Oh God! Wait! Before you go, Chris, yes. So I watched the video from CompTIA about the run,
Yeah.
the 5K run.
Oh.
And they're panning over, and all I see is like John and Matt Lee looking completely out of place with they're trying to do their webinar. They're like webcasting from the run, and they're like. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, it was a special view. I'll find that video. We'll bring it up.
Bring it up. I will say it was, I would say it was a spectacular, mediocre kind of outcome. There was nothing great, nothing bad, but we learned what not to do. Walking webinars are great. Matt Lee and I were just drenched and gassed at the end of it. But you know what? We had a good time and we have some succinct takeaways we're going to give out of it. So that's all that matters.
That's correct. All right. So now, sorry. I totally, I don't want to steal any more of your thunder there, Chris. What do you think, Eric?
No, yeah, I think this, the move to the cloud, it's a part of a whole bigger acceleration of adoption of technology that we've seen over the last few years that just, has been accelerated by, COVID and changes in work. We've probably done, 20 years of technology adoption in 3, and we see that too with chat, with the combination of people wanting to reach you remotely with that, and also with your workforce being separated and using collaboration tools like Teams and Slack to get their job done. It's just all part of this digital transformation that's been happening that we're trying to make less painful for everybody.
In kind of touch on what you said, especially in the last 3 years, and Scott Galloway was the keynote at CompTIA. He's talked about this in many of his podcasts, that the pandemic really was an accelerator. Any trend we've seen starting accelerated not by a year, but by 10 in only 2 years. So yeah, we're gonna maybe do some work from home. All right, everybody works from home now and it's okay. And we're gonna probably move a few apps to the cloud. Okay, it's so much of it's moved to the cloud rapidly because, well, that coincides with work from home. The server's not local, so why have the server at the office? You may as well, why have an office? It's expanding out from there. But to the same extent, when you have people who are kind of compressed into things, I think that lends it to the communication anywhere thing. And that's where I was going to lead up to a question with you, Chris. What made you decide to go for chatbots? As you've seen this trend coming, you've seen the need for it. You're saying, we know John's seen the gap and sees the future. And how did you see the future, and how did chatbots fit into like how you're going to solve that strategy?
I'm not an MSP. I've never been one, but some of my best friends are MSPs. Just conversations. A few years back, multiple conversations with different MSPs who didn't know each other, didn't work together, different cities. Same things kept coming up. Either, this customer, they want to use Slack to talk to me. We don't use Slack. Do I say no? Do I open up and assign a tech to listen to Slack all day? That in combination with, everybody's working from home. We're all in teams now. We're solving problems in a thread, and then it gets lost. So it was conversations with specific MSPs that I know that this topic of chat coming up short for their business kept coming up, and what we started to realize in these conversations is it's the same problem. They're describing the same problem from different directions. It's about chat not being able to connect to the system of record, in this case, ConnectWise Manage. And you solve that problem, and you solve both ends of this scenario.
See, it's interesting because, like, in just the position I'm in now is a position of privilege where I can say, you're going to use my ticketing system if you want to engage with me. But there's obviously things I'm in. Hey, why not? This can be almost a sales pitch to me because I'm an MSP and I do think about this challenge. I don't like that I have to force it, but I've had to tell clients, they want to connect me. Hey, can I just send a message on Slack? I'm like, look, not everybody on my team is monitoring Slack and simultaneously monitoring G Suite and simultaneously monitoring Teams. Do we have access to all those? Yeah, but I'm trying to put all the data in one spot so I can manage it, so I can concisely track it, so I understand and can champion a ticket all the way through and put a metric to it. And I think what you're saying is with your tool, you're able to then build that in. So I think that's a good vision you have for assembling that.
Thanks. Yeah, specifically, that's one of the things we do. If you don't use Slack, your customer wants to, you can put a bot in their Slack. They can check tickets. They can open tickets, and you can even bridge live chat from something like Teams to Slack. Because eventually there's going to be this need for the human touch in this conversation as well. You can't just throw a bot out there and expect it to solve all the problems. So,
Absolutely. And I think a fun marketing spin could always be, if anyone asks me is it any good, I'm like, well, a guy from NASA wrote it. Like,
I'm going to take that.
Honestly, we're put like NASA approved and everything.
Written by a guy from NASA. I mean, I'm just saying.
I think I'm going to hear about this now. Like that, I'm going to get a call from the IRS or something. Check on my status.
You're welcome. Like, honestly, I would probably back to the marketing piece. I would totally I would do like the MTV astronaut imagery and and I would totally just I would repurpose it.
I am going to rethink our logo, and at this point, if there's somewhere I can get him in there.
I'll send you my bill.
Yeah. You gotta have a mascot.
Okay, yeah, like the cowboy. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it'd be amazing.
Nice.
So as we're turning the corner here, again, being at these conferences and listening to these MSPs talking, they find the need to not have to access multiple portals, multiple platforms. They're trying to simplify their workday, right? We know there's integrations into Manage and whatnot with this. The question still comes to play though is how is it going to affect their life every day using products like this? how is it effective for the better or the negative? I really don't see many negatives in it, other than the fact of maybe a learning curve to figure out how to do some things. But after that, though, I mean, what does the learning curve look like for you, John, on your side?
Yeah, actually, I think the learning curve's a lot steeper than some other solutions. I love, what ChatStyle does. It takes a very complex problem, makes it very easy. We actually have quite a complex, thing to tackle. We're talking, tackling an entire new ecosystem in our business. We're trying to help MSPs who have been not apathetic, but maybe avoidant on talking about all these SaaS apps over the years, because they don't want to get into it, or their fear is, and this is a real metric, there's 15,000 SaaS apps. How am I supposed to ever care or support about all of these things? And I feel like there's this just overwhelming amount of how do I do this? And so from my perspective, there is a bit of there's a bit of challenge, right? Like there's a bit of challenge in educating why this matters. But I think when you boil it down, we've got to look at some of those global macro problems. And that's what really gets MSPs energized. What are the global macro problems that are happening in a SaaS ecosystem is what we really focus on, solving SaaS ecosystem problems. Where do we see people sharing accounts? That's an easy conversation. Where do we see service accounts and systems that are accessing SaaS apps? Where do we miss the offboard journey of an employee where they signed up for all these different resources and put data in there, but I told Mr. Customer, who just assumed I do everything IT, if it's got the word IT even close to it, my MSP must do it for me, who just assumed my MSP took care of all of these components during the employee offboard. And then looking at even more macro things, like today's been a busy day for our team because we've been putting together responses. I think I just even maybe have read, I don't want to hit it too close, but Cloudflare was part of the same kind of hit that Twilio was part of with their data breach. We talked about Slack's data breach last night. I mean, we have been up, or not data breach, security event. Let me be fair. Let me be fair.
We can't use the B word. It's all just
I used the wrong word there.
It's the wrong words. Back to, you were sounding so smart for so long.
I will stop sounding smart not to get sued. But I'm saying security event. But my point being is that we, in the last 24 hours, have talked about even 4 security events across 4 SaaS vendors, and not just small little SaaS vendors. And that's what I'm saying is we look at these macro problems. Third parties being part of a data exposure that maybe you weren't part of, or a security event that you were part of. How can the MSP talk about that? How can they talk about shared accounts? How can they talk about service accounts? How can they talk about app overlap? Things like that. Let's get them. We want to get them with really simple, repeatable patterns, because I don't want them to be apathetic, because at the end of the day, I think there should be at least some really focus on SaaS, because SaaS tools are doing everything they can to take over parts of the job of an MSP. And I think that the MSP needs to be in front of it, talking to their customer about what they're adopting and how they're adopting it, to maintain that strategic level that they've wanted for so long with their customers. So I don't know if I answered your question exactly, Sean, but I think in general, focus on the ecosystem problems, not on the individual apps themselves.
Sure.
Well, and I'll go a little further. One thing that, and you brought this up before me, and you were talking about it, and it's when you have that person at one of your clients, and they're uploading a lot of data to different government sites that are industry specific, sometimes regulative sites that have there's no OAuth. They're not like we see how they're signing in. And some of them, we know this from interacting with our clients, especially because one of them, when Internet Explorer went away, we had to add this plugin to Chrome to emulate Internet Explorer to get this government site to work. And by the way, they don't have usernames. They have like assigned government ID numbers and some password they type in. So it's not even normal. It's not like I'm looking for an email address. The weirdness of all of this is like, wow. And if they didn't break Internet Explorer, I wouldn't even be aware that they're doing this at my client.
Yeah.
That's obviously a big data thing, because there's all this data going in there. It's all their records of, I think it's for cattle, but or something. It's who knew this existed? This is all stuff that had to be on there. But that visibility is just becoming more and more important, because they've been using it obviously for years because the application required Internet Explorer, but we didn't know until it broke.
Well, and that's why I talk about obligation, Tom. Like I feel an obligation because I see that, and we joke about cattle, but that's probably the most important piece of data to their business. Like, it's the most important business data they have. it's just it's hard to know the problems till you see the data, and it's almost like putting on glasses. If, you know, I'm basically blind. If I take my contacts out, stay away from me. But my point being is, like, it's like putting glasses on when you couldn't see, you had blurry vision before. People don't realize that you're blind until you go to the eye doctor and they tell you they're there. So when I look at it, I feel an obligation to tell these people that there's things are here. They can choose, you know, to not acknowledge it or to choose not to solve it, but they at least need to know that these things are happening.
Agreed. So I'm sorry, I was about to jump in, but Tom, what else do you want to go with here while we're going? Because you're like, you guys are like on, and I'm not trying to interrupt that.
Yeah, no, I think well, I want to bring it back over to Chris too, because now we have a little bit of a pivot question here, and Sean can add to this. So
Thanks.
since you didn't come from an MSP background, and other than having some MSP friends, how are you gaining the insight? So John, he worked in the industry, seen a problem, left, solves a problem. You're coming in from a different approach. You had some friends that, you know, you're engaging with that discuss their problems. How did you expand from there and work to the business acumen? Are you have a business background, just not in the MSP space, or are you a coding background, or some combination?
Yeah, no. So it's a heavy on the coding background. So I appreciate the program and Sean and everybody else who has been able. That's where I'm learning. And, you know, it's these talks, all the webinars, all the sessions have really opened my eyes in terms of the channel and just, you know, all the things that are being that are happening, things that I had no idea about, and the different types of MSPs and everything that goes on. You know, it's one thing to have some friends and do some work for them for some custom software development from time to time. It's another to really understand the market and the channel, and so I can't say enough about PitchIT and ConnectWise for me to, you know, everything it's done.
I appreciate that, I mean, I want to go back to again where Tom was going with it too, to a degree, was you're not an MSP. You came up with a product for MSPs. How the hell did you get started with that? Friends with MSPs, but really, like, where did that come from? You know, I mean,
yeah. I took part in some local entrepreneurial activities. You know, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a pretty good entrepreneurial environment with local organizations and things like that. And so some of those helped me to understand that if you want to do something like this, you got to get out of the office and talk to people. I got to stop coding and chasing down what I think is cool in the next feature, and actually just have a lot of conversations with MSPs and find out, you know, what they need, what their problems are, and that's sort of, you know, led the direction of all of this development is trying to find out where their pain points are, where they think they could make a difference. You know, if I just had this thing, it would solve my problem. So lots of conversations.
Awesome. No, that's an important aspect of it, because like you said, when you're living in the problem, solving it's differently than when you were coming at it from an outside approach. And I think, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, all the ones we've interviewed, I think he's the first one that didn't work in the MSP business that I've met.
No, we had Wes from oh god, he came from the printer space.
Oh, you're right. But I mean, he's more tech adjacent.
I was gonna say they're close. Yeah, they're far. What he does is along the same lines as exactly Chris, or not Chris, but as far as MSPs are concerned, where Chris is probably the complete 180.
Yeah,
back end coming in.
Yeah.
We hear circus music. Who has circus music going on in the background? I mean,
that's my wife playing piano in the other room, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, we don't have to worry about a copyright then. It's right. Yeah, so we're good.
I love it. Well, we've been looking for some music for our show, so that's really nice of you.
I'll make sure to let her know afterwards. But
yeah,
and
thank you to Louis, because he probably messaged me and said it was Nexera. That's who I was referring to with Wes. So
yeah,
dude, your wife she's jamming. Like, I feel like we should get my guitar. We're gonna just get the band back together.
All right. Nice.
Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. Anyway, so all right. So again, you came and solved the problem. that you heard from other people. And I mean, communication, we all understand that, but I would never have thought to jump into a space like this.
Yeah, it was an unusual leap for me. I mean, like I had no background in product development, but I just love solving problems that nobody solved before. No matter whether they're small or big, and this one is closer to big. So yeah, that's something that just drives me personally. So.
That may be interesting too, because now you've come at it from the approach of you've seen the problem, you didn't live the problem, so you are coming completely at it from an outside perspective. Which I think that's always interesting when someone comes in not related to the industry, but brings expertise with them. Because sometimes people think people just pivot and move into an industry and become an expert because they were an outsider. They often bring in a lot of expertise they had previously, so they're bringing that same set of problem-solving tools to a new industry, and then sometimes it does create some really interesting solutions to the problem that were maybe not seen before.
Yeah, because we can come to John's side. John was an MSP. You know, I mean, he worked in that space. So again, just like Gene from Traceless, he built his solution based off of his existing MSP needs.
Yep.
That he knew he had to do. So, and I think, and this was what I've always noticed even about myself is you get caught in a box sometimes. You got to solve a problem, you just don't know how to get to it too. So sometimes you talk to other people, and Chris brings that element of the back end, the opposite side of the world. And John, you built it right from you, and obviously pretty effectively. Because here you are.
Well, I think though, like foundationally, even then, like my product that it is today is nothing that I started it to build out. By the way, like that's a follow-up story one day, I'm sure. I don't want to go down that path, but I think Chris can empathize with me, right? Like you just listen, you talk to your customers, you hear what they want, you build what they want, and you just listen. And I always like to say, call my baby ugly. I'm not here to hear why you like me. I live in the Midwest. I got a lot of people that'll tell me why they like me. Just kick me in the ass and tell. Did I break any rules here?
Nope. All
right.
I've said worse. I've said worse, John. Don't worry.
Yes.
Right. I didn't know. I didn't want to break the PG rating of Tom Lawrence Tech, but and I think
a couple of drinks, we'll see what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think this is a good challenge though to MSPs out there. Like, tell your vendors where they suck so they can improve it, and like challenge them. And like if they challenge you back and say, no, we don't, like that. Listen to that, because any vendor should really want to hear where they're bad and build something good. So that's completely off the whole point. But I think for Chris, right, like it's probably how you built what you built. You just listen to what they wanted.
Yeah, I like that. I like the challenge. I like the challenging of the vendor, but in a constructive manner of sorts, right? Because far too often I see go off the rails where it becomes an argument virtually, which doesn't have to happen, right? I'm not saying it's the MSP's fault or the vendor's fault, because sometimes it lies on both and sometimes one. But I think it's important. Like I constantly look for feedback on anything I work on to how to improve it. But don't just come to me complaining. Give me like what you think is a solution of some sort, or give me the use case scenario. Like, I love your product does this stuff. If it could only do this too, like I need to use it in this way. So at least that way we're talking on the same wavelength. Because you say, I just wish it was better. Yeah. Okay, in what way? Like, is it the Jetsons and I need to have the maid come out and clean after we're done using it? Or, I mean, what do you need here? Like, tell me, like, no, and give me a use case scenario so I can work on that. And knowing also in this world of SaaS that this is an ever evolving door of technologies and features and enhancements and everything else. So what works today? I mean, use your phone, for example. Every time I do an update on my phone, some weird random thing doesn't work. They improve something else, but something else doesn't work all of a sudden. And then like what the hell happened? Then a day later is a new update. And you're like, oh, they saw the bug, they're fixing it.
Yeah.
But I want people to realize that, because SaaS it's not an on-prem device.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm impressed by just the size of the problem that John and his company are tackling there. It's chat is one thing. Somebody might want to chat a different way tomorrow, but SaaS that's I mean, it's really something MSPs going forward are going to have to deal with. And so the challenge there, I'm impressed by what you all have done, and I know that MSPs are going to need you guys a lot in the future.
And I wish we had you back in the day. So I think we're both in a good spot. I wish I had Jet Style back in the day. So we're both over here like, man, this is good.
Nice.
Well, and to go back to something you said, John, you said your product isn't from where you started. And maybe that's, kind of what we said, where Chris came from the outside, you came from the inside. You solved your problem as you perceived it, but it was the interaction with, as you got customers, that you had to start modifying things. I'm assuming like, oh, we got to solve this a little differently because here's how the bigger market and how we product market fit ourselves into the bigger MSP market is going to be. So is that where a lot of your changes came from, John?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's really important though. And now we're getting into like a how to build a SaaS company, less on where we're serving our customers and partners, but it's got to be 90% feedback and 10% vision. Like you can't let partners also tell you what to do. Like if you let the partners tell you what to do, you build a really good solution for a partner or two. If you listen to the macro problems that the partners are bringing to you, then you build a good solution. And, I think I always encourage that. You got to have that product function in your organization. If we built what I wanted to build, this product would never be completed. And if anybody knows Ben on my team, they know why the product actually grows and gets better, because there's a funnel of like what gets done. So there's that dose of like, what do you want in a vision that somebody has to lead, but then there has to be real good, sophisticated practices, not just willy-nilly, this feature sounds good or that feature sounds good, practices around building something. Because if you're building something like Chris is, where you're defining the industry of what chat looks like for MSPs and the interconnectivity, you're prescribing a solution to the partner. And so you better do it right versus giving the wrong prescription. Otherwise, somebody will find that gap and kind of find their way in.
Well, let's go back to exactly what you were saying about you can't take all the orders from the MSP, right? Mm-hmm. But it really comes down to understanding, again, back to use cases. How are you going to use this? I mean, especially like with ConnectWise, and even when I was at other vendors too, people would say, do you integrate with? And I would say, why? What do you want it to do? What are you trying to get it to do? Because chances are it probably exists already. You just don't know how to do it, right? Mm-hmm. There's a workaround, or there's an existing feature, or there's what are you trying to accomplish? And I used to always make the joke about it, but it's like spot on. Especially when I talk to MSPs, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to integrate into your toaster so they can make toast while you're making phone calls. Mm-hmm. That's not relevant to me. It's not because you have to ask that. Like otherwise, they have a whole laundry list of features that lead. It's almost like a path to nowhere. Do all these things, all these features that doesn't fix a single thing.
Yeah.
For the day-to-day. It's like put a gadget there, put a widget there. Why? Oh, because it looks cool. Have a widget there on that screen. For doing what? Look at that. There's a gauge. Look, it's okay. What's it do? Yeah. It's a gauge. Okay, I got it. What's it do?
Management will just drive you to building pretty dashboards and pew maps.
Exactly. For what reason? And that's always the question you have to ask. And I firmly believe in, you should always talk to your audience and say, okay, why do you want this? Okay, let me look and see now. Now that I've determined, oh, this is something that's cool. We like it. But does it really fit in now? Is it an immediate need? No. Okay. So we can wait. We'll put it on a roadmap. Oh, you need it now? Well, we like it too. We see it as a universal enhancement for everybody. So if you want it now, though, we're going to charge you a fee.
Yeah.
Why not? We'll go back. I think that's how you work this out. And you add it in that way. But yeah, I totally think I love enhancements, and plus you also have beta testers then.
I couldn't agree more. I think don't build anything for one individual customer. Even if the customer says they'll pay for it, I'm going to argue on the other side, like, just don't build it. If one customer's asked it and nobody else has asked for it, You're not servicing your partners correctly by building one off. But I'll also make another point, Sean. It sounds like you need to hook the guy that needs a ConnectWise toaster integration up with Tom's guy that's got Slack rebooting servers. And we got to just have a hackathon and see this thing go down.
I want to Slack my toaster now.
I know. Seriously.
I like it.
All right, so we're at the top of our time. So we have two important questions to ask. First one being, when it comes down to it, what is your currency? We'll start with Chris. What is your currency? Why do you do what you do?
Certainly, U.S. dollars is high up there as a currency I prefer, but really, I think I mentioned it before. It's more about solving problems that either nobody else has solved, or I know nobody tried, or just solving these problems of usually of a technical nature that just does something for me. It's a powerful motivation. So.
Awesome. Okay, John, what's your currency, man?
Chris and I are both engineers. We have the same answer. My answer is so I have one universal guiding light across everything in the organization when I make a decision. What is going to drive me to solving this problem the best? That's my currency. How am I going to solve this problem the best? Every decision aligns around that, because if you build the right problem, or if you solve the problem the best, everything else will get dragged along forward. So that's my currency.
Awesome. Okay. And then, Tom gets all excited because it's my favorite question. It's perfect. And what's your love language? Chris, we'll go with you again to start with.
I read the list before. I think I got to go with 5. That's just I'm a hugger.
So Sean. So and Tom,
right.
if he's drink enough.
Tom is the absolute hugger. Just so we're clear.
I've heard the story. Yeah.
So there's Tom loves hugging. So if you see Tom, everybody give him a hug. Long embraces, and if you look into his eyes, it's even better. He really likes that.
Oh yeah, gotta lock eyes. Thanks, Sean. You always make it awkward.
It's such a bad visual.
No, Tom has nice eyes.
No,
he has kind eyes. Okay, so John, what is your love language?
So I think you're supposed to have 2: one to give and one that you receive, right? Like on my side, mine give is acts of service. I'm a servant. Like, if you know anything about me, it's servant is the number one word to describe me on StrengthsFinder. I love helping. But my one that I like to receive is time, quality time. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. That's really nice. See how nice this all bringing everybody together, this whole love language thing?
Yeah, I like it. We got everybody. And you all have spent 3 hours. Well, we have a cumulative 4 hours now together, so we have some time together.
Yeah. I mean, actually, John, I think we have a lot more than that together at this point.
We are past the acts of time. I'm on to something else.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah, Chris, you need to get out to these conferences with us, man.
I do. I'm gonna play catch up, but I'll get there.
You're going to be at IT Nation Secure 2022, so we will meet you there.
All right.
That's going to be exciting.
What about Connect? Are you making it out to Connect this year?
It's still in flux, but I'm trying.
At the very least, you should attend and get yourself acquainted with it. And if what John did is get yourself acquainted with the environment, and it's you can't ask for a better place to be around people. First off, you're going to see all these guys that we've been together with all this time, so it's comfortable. Though you're actually in the mecca of the problems you're solving for.
It's definitely where I want to be. So.
Yep.
Come out, Chris, and I'll introduce some of my partners that love us and have them sit down and check out your tech. Like, that's where things get done. Is that, I mean, even if you're not boothing, just like come out and walk. I did that for like my first 5 or 10. It's just you get ingrained, and it just becomes this momentum.
Agreed. So, I mean, for instance, this is where I actually got John to cry and actually sign up. Walking the conference floor.
Yep.
And he was crying, and we were talking about conversions, and we were talking about leads, and we were talking the whole thing. We were talking about everything, and he was like, "Yeah, you're okay, fine." Yep.
Those people that know me know I cry constantly, and very rarely smile. So
I cry constantly.
Oh,
I mean, well, here, I want to make sure I did say about this, so I want to share my screen real quick. And show exactly, Oh, did it come out? It didn't come out right, did it?
You shared the wrong one.
I don't know. I only have one. What do you mean I shared the wrong one? I have one on my laptop.
All right, just hit share. Well, no, share the tab.
See,
Yeah.
now Tom's making 2 billables. He's taught me how to use a computer, and he's teaching you to share a tab. So this has covered Tom's budget for the hour. That's his currency.
How about this?
Oh, yes.
Oh yes.
Wow.
That is a wonderful picture.
I mean, can we give it up for for John and Matt Lee looking like? I mean, with Olivia
I have
Newton,
not
like,
seen this. I love this.
Olivia Newton-John just passed recently, and she would totally get physical in this picture with you guys.
I might make this my LinkedIn photo. I didn't even know that was out there.
That is great.
Yes.
Is that on MK's?
Yeah, it's shared from his LinkedIn. Yeah, so there you are with your headband on. I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
I just recorded this morning with Mr. Cyber Matt Lee too. So
Yeah, I wish you had known that. I would have gave it to you in advance so you could have shared that.
yeah. Because I now have in the video that'll be released tomorrow a Shakespeare quote added to a cybersecurity video. Because Matt Lee says things that I was like, what did he just say? Do I have to edit that out?
He says something for sure.
He quoted.
He goes off on a tangent, and like you have to be like, "Come on back, buddy." And he's like,
"Yeah,
no."
It's fun reeling him back in. You just gotta grab him by the beard, bring him back in.
And he's like, "I got excited. I'm sorry, I got excited." I'm like, "I know, it's cool. Don't worry about it."
He was a lot of fun. It's gonna be very educational. We redid the one we did at CompTIA, the "How I Would Hack You." We redid that in more depth and made it a video. So. Fun recording. That's why I'm exhausted. You know how hard it was recording with him and Slagle? There's a reason I'm tired. And a lack of words. I'm all worded out for the day.
Right, exactly. All right, so we got to wrap this up because we got to be mindful. I have to actually go back to work, So, guys, thank you so much. Anything you guys need, let me know.
I put links to both of their sites so you can check them out. They have demos that you can request on there and, engage with them, see how they're solving these problems, play around with the software. They got a lot of information on their site they both have lots of details. As John redid his site, I just checked out the Chat Style AI site more recently, but there's a good FAQ on there to get you a lot of information about the products so you can better understand it. And of course, book a demo and get that deeper understanding by engaging with these folks here.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both for your time. I appreciate it. It's much appreciated, Tom and Sean, for doing this. #CWGoat. Congrats.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you thanks for your time.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, everyone.
Cheers.
Peace out, Girl Scout.